All right, on to the for each statement. Here I want to make a list of all the movie titles. And let's look at it in the output first. Here's a list of all the movie titles in a bullet list. Okay, each of these movie titles is in its own bullet. So here's my bullet list, and it gives me the list of all the movies in my database. I made a bullet for each movie. The idea? And it's in practice, it's a lot more simple. It's a lot simpler than it is in theory because the practice of it actually just makes a lot of sense. I want a title in a bullet for each movie. And here's how I'm going to do that. I use my for each statement. And here's my for each statement. It says for each select whack whack movie that's going to return 15 movies, put in a bullet li, and then put in the value of the title. That's all there is to it. For each movie, put in a bullet, inside the bullet, put in the value of the title. With one other thing, which is I want to wrap the entire for each thing inside of a UL. Right? The UL tag, which is the parent of the LI tag, has to go outside all the LI tags. So the UL is the top level tag. Inside the UL, I put my for each. Inside the for each, I put the LI. Inside the LI, I put the value of, which means I have a bunch of LIs with the value of titles inside the UL tag, which is going to create the bullet list. Okay, let me review a couple of other things about this that aren't so apparent. It's nice and simple and straightforward, which may allow you to ignore some very significant things about this for each. The first is that this title is a relative title. It's relative, the title is an XPath, and that XPath is a relative XPath. It's relative to movie. The second thing is that this is going to return 15 movies, one for each, and each time it returns a movie, the current node is going to be a different movie. Therefore, the title is going to be a different title. Okay, so that may bear a little more thinking, and consider it for a while, and then try it yourself and start playing around with this stuff to convince yourself of the importance of the current node. I've given you a nice simple example here. Later on, it might get a little bit more sophisticated, and you'll have to think a lot harder about that idea of the current node changing every time you go through the for each. Okay, the last thing for us to talk about is the choose command. And the choose command I integrated with some more XPaths and some more HTML to give you this table. Here's the table, and I should have squoze this in here a little bit more. That's all right. We'll just have to scroll. It has movie title, the original language of the movie, the languages you can watch the movie in, and then what it was translated. This was a silent movie. It's got music only, so it's no translation. This one's subtitled. These ones are not translated, and these ones are dubbed. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a table. In each row of the table is a movie. So you can see, I think, just from looking at this table, that there's 15 rows, one for each movie. You should immediately be saying, it's going to put in a row for each movie. Okay, that's how we created this table. There's a row for each movie. Meanwhile, the columns are, each one has its own different piece of information in here. Here's the title of the movie, so we'll see the title of the movie in column 1. Here's the original language. Wherever the original language is, we're going to find it and put it in column 2. Languages you can watch it in, we're going to find those languages and put them in column 3. And somehow in column 4, we're going to find what the translation mode is and put it in column 4. Okay, so let's go back over to the transform and see how all this is done. First of all, let me close some of this stuff down. And there we go. So here we are in the choose. You can notice that the whole block is inside the table. So everything is happening inside the table. Then we have one table row here, and this table row is completely just in this one right here. This table row is completely in HTML. This is the header row. So it says movie title, original movie. That's this one up here, right? And that's just HTML. There's no need to have any XML in there at all. No XSL commands, nothing. Now, inside of the table, after the first row, we're going to, for each movie, notice, for each movie, the same as the for each we had up here, for each movie, we are going to create a row. Can you see that TR is inside the for each? So for each movie, create a row. Now notice also what I'm doing here. To understand this transform, I'm again closing it down the same way that I closed down the instance to understand the instance. And I'm going to reveal it one layer at a row, one layer at a time. So first I looked at the table. And I closed that down and I just said, oh, it's all in a table. Then I looked at the rows and I said, oh, here's row number 1. I looked in there and said, okay, that's good. I closed that down. I looked at the for each. Now I understand that the for each is going to create a table row for each movie. And now I can progressively reveal that, and I can look at each column inside there in turn. And so now I simplify it and I see, oh, okay, I got a table, it's got a header row, and then for each movie I put in a row and I put in one column. Now I'm in a position to look at it one piece at a time. I open up the first column and I see, oh, okay, that's simple enough. I just select the value of the title into that first column. Right? I just select the value of the title. There's the value of the title into that first column. Second column, original language. How am I going to get an original language out? So I close up this column so that it's not starting to confuse me, and I open this one up and I see value of dialogue country origin. All right, let's look at the schema for a minute to make sure we know what's going on here. So here we are inside the movie. Let me close up cast so it's not getting in our way. And we'll go down to dialogue. And let me just look at what's going on in dialogue so that I'm in a position to understand what's happening in the transform. Notice, by the way, that the schema doesn't directly participate in this transformation, but it sure is helpful when I want to figure out what's going on. Much more helpful, in fact, than the instance is, because the instance doesn't always have all the tags in it, and it's not as easy to look at as the schema. So look at the dialogue tag. I see that the dialogue tag has a language mode attribute, and I see that it's a restriction of excess string. That's a sure sign that what's going on is an enumerated list. And there's my enumerations. Language mode, dubbed, subtitled, silent, and none. Dubbed, subtitled, silent, and none. Where's that showing up? That's showing up in this fourth column. So I put a little mark, right? Dubbed, there's silent, there's dubbed, not translated, that's probably the none, and subtitled and dubbed and not translated and silent, right? So there's all my values. So I put a marker in my head that later on I'm going to be dealing with this lang mode attribute. And then country of origin, and I see this is also restricted. This is a clue that this is an enumerated list, and I look at the enumerations, and there's all the countries of origin: Germany, United States, Russia, England, blah, blah, blah. And then I look at the languages, and notice that there's one country of origin, one and only one, but there's one or more languages. And the languages are all these languages: German, silent language, English, Russian, etc., etc. Now I understand the schema. That way, when I look back in this transform, I can get what's going on. So under dialogue, country origin is going to be a single country of origin. I know that, right? So I can just get a value of. What if there was multiple countries of origin? I couldn't use the value of because there's multiple elements there. For multiple elements, I have to use a for each. So I would use a for each here. But however, since I look in the schema and the schema tells me there's only one country of origin and only one dialogue, using the value of is going to work just fine here. And so in column 2, I simply paste in the country of origin. And so that's what's going on here: United States, Sweden, Italy, etc. Those are all the countries of origin. So column 1, I just pasted in the title. Column 2, I simply paste in the country of origin. Now let's look at column 3.